Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart. Both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing, The Gate of Ivrel. I don't know if you can see the title. It's okay. It's right there in yellow. Gate of Ivrel. Ivrel by C.J. Cherryh. This is book one in her 4-volume Morgaine cycle. This came out in 1976. So I've got all 4 books. Book 1, Gate of Ivrel. Book 2, Well of Shuan. Book 3, Fires of Azeroth. And book 4, Exile's Gate. Now let's talk about the covers first, because you know I love graphic design and cover illustration. So came out in 1976. Okay, you would look at this, you would look at these and you would think, okay, this is akin to those 1970s fantasy erotic trash novels that I've been reading lately, stuff like you probably saw my review of Raven, or my review of High Couch of Silistra, both written in the 70s, both just sort of erotic fantasy trash novels from the 70s. That's why you look at this cover and you would think we're probably getting the same thing. We've got a bikini-clad lady with a sword. She's in every cover. Except for the final cover, she's a little more covered up and wearing armor more befitting of who the character really is. Now, these covers were all done by the great, masterful fantasy illustrator Michael Whelan. I do have a hunch that going with the naked lady in the bikini and the sword on the cover of the first 3 novels was a marketing decision based upon the fact that in the 1970s, novels like these were selling in the millions. And even though this C.J. Cherryh Morgaine cycle, at least the first book, bears no resemblance to what's going on the cover, I have a feeling it was a marketing decision to sell more books. Back in the 70s, today this would be, the patriarchy and misogyny and everything else combined to create that. Back in the 70s, it wasn't any of that. It just was what it was. Anyhow, let's talk about the book itself. So let's put books 4, 3, and 2 back up on a shelf. Talk about book 1, Gate of Ivrel. What is it about? Well, there are these portals in space, sort of like stargates, and they're everywhere. And for whatever reason, it seems to me like you can jump forward in time through them, but never backward in time. But you can cross to different planets and different ages, forward in time, so it seems, through these portals. Well, there's a team of agents out there in space that want to close these portals down because they are they can be used for evil things or bad things or whatever. That's the premise of the story. The portals need to be shut down, and Morgaine, who is the Morgaine in the Morgaine cycle, who was our main lady here with the sword, she is one of these agents tasked with going around and shutting these portals down, and now she has landed on this planet where a knight named Vanya lives. He's the bastard son of a minor noble lord, so to speak. He's got himself into trouble with his family. He's killed one of his brothers, maimed another one of his brothers. So he's on the run. He's on the lam. And he sort of miraculously teams up with this Morgaine who has arrived on the planet to shut down this portal. Now, Morgaine herself doesn't really have a hugely welcoming reputation amongst other characters in here. I mean, she's got a bad reputation. Vanya has a bad reputation. So they become a team. The world building, so that's basically the plot of the whole thing. Now they've got to go shut this gate down. The world building is, gosh, it's pretty grand and vast, because we're not just talking about this one localized planet, but hints of other things out there. Morgaine really reminds me of Elric of Melniboné and his sword Stormbringer, and in that, Morgaine is sort of wandering through different times and different universes and different dimensions and planescapes with her sword, which is called Changeling, and it also is kind of like I don't know, I would say maybe like maybe like a technologically nuclear-powered magical sword, which also sucks souls from people, just like Elric and the Stormbringer. And she's, tasked as an agent to close these stargates. The language, I was talking about the world building. The only kind of gripe, because I really enjoyed this story, but the only gripe I had was there was a bit of a archaic, the way that the characters spoke to each other was very thee and thou. I mean, thee and thou, and it was very stilted. And as I looked at some other Goodreads reviews, everybody seemed to love this book too, except for the dialogue, which was, like I said, a little archaic, a little biblical, a little King James version of the Bible-esque, which it bogged me down a little bit, but again, it was a little bit lyrical and poetic at the same time, so I can't be too, upset about it or I was a little taken aback. That's the thing. I wasn't happy. I wasn't upset. I was a bit taken aback, and then I got used to it. And now I'm wondering if it follows through, if it's just this world, if it's just Ivrel, this world, that they talk like that. Maybe as they adventure through some of these other books, that disappears. I don't know. Anyway, C.J. Cherryh, classic fantasy, space, portal, sword and planet type, non-fantasy trash novel, despite the cover, despite the girl in the bikini in the cover and the Conan looking guy, girl in the bikini, and they're never described like this in the book. In Raven, she was described exactly like that in the book. In The High Couch of Solistra, she wore nothing but pasties throughout the whole book. In this book, these characters actually look more like this than this. Like, this book came out in 1976, this book came out in the early 1990s. Thus, the change in tone of the cover art. Same artist, though, Michael Whelan. Not saying this is a dope painting. This is a very Frazetta, reminiscent of Frazetta. Very dope. I mean, I love the Michael Whelan art. Anyway, what do I give this? I'm going to give this about a 7.5 out of 10. Can't wait to read the other 4. And we got a whole bunch of C.J. Cherryh books coming up on this channel within the next, 10 years or whatever. I'll probably be reviewing 2 or 3 every year.